Welcome to Daily English Dialogues channel. Today we're diving into a skill that's absolutely vital for connecting with people, and, well, it's a huge boost for anyone looking to truly sharpen their English fluency. The art of engaging conversation.
It really is key.
And this isn't just about, trading polite words, is it? It's more about forming genuine connections, expressing yourself with clarity, and navigating that whole kind of intricate world of social interactions with real confidence.
Absolutely. It truly is. And our mission for this deep dive is to pull together the most powerful, sometimes surprising insights from a whole range of sources. We found through research in psychology, practical etiquette guides, strategies from professional communication, and even those really candid, real-world experiences people share online.
Right, like forums and things.
Exactly. And the goal is really to equip you, our listener, with concrete strategies and a nuanced understanding of how to initiate, sustain, and then gracefully conclude conversations.
Okay, so practical takeaways.
Definitely. And this isn't just about making small talk, though that's part of it. Think of it more as an immersive journey, something designed to elevate your conversational game and organically enrich your English fluency.
How so?
Well, by exposing you to maybe more advanced vocabulary, different grammatical structures, but all within a context you can actually use immediately. It's learning in action, really.
I love that conversational game. It makes it feel more dynamic, less like a chore.
Yeah, less intimidating, maybe.
So what's our game plan for this deep dive? What are we going to cover?
Okay, so we're going to start by breaking down what conversation actually is, the fundamentals, and then we'll tackle head-on that very common challenge of shyness.
Yes, shyness. Definitely need to cover that.
We will. After that, we'll arm you with a toolkit, sort of, for breaking the ice practical stuff. Then a pretty comprehensive guide to keeping discussions lively and engaging.
Sustaining it, yeah.
Yeah.
That's often the hard part.
It can be. And finally, we'll look at the often overlooked art of making a smooth exit, how to end a conversation well. And throughout, we'll underline why consistent practice is, the secret sauce.
Perfect. Sounds like a solid plan. Okay, let's unpack this. The foundation. Understanding conversation and embracing self-acceptance. So let's kick things off with a really fundamental question. What is conversation, really? And why does it matter so much in our lives? Especially maybe for those of us navigating new social scenes or really working on refining our English fluency, why should we care?
That's the perfect starting point, because when we talk about conversation, it's not just one monolithic thing. It's more like a whole spectrum of different types of talk, each with its own purpose.
A spectrum, okay. Like what?
Well, on one end, you've got small talk. This is all about those polite, often lighthearted exchanges, things about unimportant or, uncontroversial topics.
That's
like
the weather or...
Exactly. The weather, how your commute was. Right. Think of it as social lubrication. It just greases the wheels of interaction. It makes things comfortable, approachable. And for English learners, mastering small talk is often a really crucial first step. It's kind of a low-pressure entry point to using the language in real time, It builds that foundation.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like testing the water with your toe before you dive headfirst into the pool, isn't it?
Precisely. Yeah, exactly like that.
So if small talk is the warm-up, then deep conversation is where you really plunge in. That's where the real connection happens.
That's right. Small talk is essential for establishing that initial rapport, signaling approachability. But deep conversation, where you delve into more substantive, more personal topics, that's where relationships truly take root and flourish. The importance of being skilled in conversation, both types, is really profound.
How so? What are the big benefits?
Well, first and foremost, conversations are the fundamental building blocks of all human relationships. Full stop. They foster mutual understanding, they build rapport, they transform strangers into acquaintances and acquaintances into, trusted friends or colleagues. It's basically how we navigate our social world.
So it's tapping into that core human need for connection.
Absolutely. But beyond just forming bonds, conversations play other critical roles too.
Like what?
Well, they create this unique, invaluable space for us to share our stories, our narratives, our experiences, our aspirations. And this naturally leads to empathy, doesn't it? Shared emotional journeys.
Yeah, when someone really opens up.
Exactly. Think about those moments when a friend shares a vulnerability or tells an inspiring story, and you find yourself nodding along, really feeling their joy or their sorrow. That's the power of dialogue right there.
Definitely.
And more practically, conversations are incredibly effective at just easing social situations. Ever been to a party or a gathering where everyone's just kind of standing around awkwardly staring at their phone?
Oh, yeah. Painfully awkward.
Right. Conversations totally elevate the energy. They prevent those uncomfortable silences, make interactions flow more seamlessly. It just makes the whole experience more enjoyable for everyone involved.
Yeah, the right conversation can completely transform the atmosphere of a room. I've definitely felt that.
Absolutely. And think about memories. So many of our most cherished memories are intrinsically linked to significant conversations, aren't they?
That's true. Like late night talks.
Yeah, late night discussions that maybe clarify a complex problem, or inspiring exchanges that spark a new idea, or even just those casual chats that simply make you feel genuinely understood, they stick with you.
You really do.
And on a more practical, maybe professional level, conversations are powerful conduits for diverse ideas and perspectives. They facilitate learning, they sharpen critical thinking, they definitely aid in problem solving.
Collaboration, too, I imagine.
Hugely important for collaboration. They're crucial for the collective generation of innovative solutions, whether that's in a university seminar, a boardroom meeting, or just brainstorming ideas with a friend. It's where new ideas are often born and refined.
So it's hitting on multiple levels: emotional connection, intellectual stimulation, practical benefits. It really does seem foundational.
It really is. And perhaps most profoundly, feeling genuinely heard and understood in conversations that addresses a core human need. It significantly contributes to our overall happiness, our sense of validation. When you feel seen and acknowledged, it just bolsters your well-being.
Yeah, feeling heard is huge.
It is. And this actually brings us to a fascinating perspective from Alison Wood Brooks. She frames conversation as a relentless coordination game.
A relentless coordination game. Wow, what does that mean?
It highlights conversation as this complex, dynamic process. It involves literally thousands of micro decisions happening all the time. It requires constant, subtle coordination of both verbal and nonverbal cues.
Thousands. Yeah. Like what sort of decisions?
Tiny things like, am I nodding too much? Or not enough? Should I lean in a bit here? Is my smile looking genuine, or does it look like a polite grimace? When should I jump in? Should I wait? These tiny split-second decisions are happening constantly. It's an intricate dance, really. A dance of subtle signals and responses. This perspective really underscores the inherent challenge and the skill involved. It moves us beyond this simplistic view of conversation as just talking.
A relentless coordination game. That's a very vivid description. It really emphasizes the complexity, doesn't it? And for those of us who might find this game particularly challenging, maybe because of shyness, it often feels like an insurmountable hurdle. So how do we move beyond that simplistic, often unhelpful advice that just falls completely flat? You know, the just be confident stuff.
That's such a critical next step because chronic shyness is far more intricate than, say, typical situational nervousness, like the jitters you might feel on the first day of a new job or before giving a presentation. That's normal nerves.
Right, it feels different.
It is different. Genuinely shy individuals often feel profoundly self-conscious, deeply uncomfortable across most social scenarios, not just specific high-stakes ones. They might even experience physical symptoms, shakiness, sweating, blushing, maybe even nausea.
Wow, really? Nausea.
Yeah, it can be quite physical. And there's often this pervasive self-doubt bubbling underneath. Doubts about whether other people have any genuine interest in them at all.
That sounds really tough.
It is. So the common, well-intentioned, but ultimately unhelpful cliches like, just smile more, or just go talk to them, they won't bite, or the classic, stop overthinking it.
Yeah, heard those.
They just don't address the deeper, often biological and experiential roots of this challenge. In fact, sometimes that kind of advice can make someone feel even more misunderstood, more isolated, like it's their fault for not being able to just switch it off.
I could definitely see that. You feel like you're feeling to just snap out of it. So if it's not just a matter of willpower, what actually causes shyness? Where does it come from?
Well, experts generally agree that shyness develops from a really complex combination of factors. It's not usually just one thing. Genetics can play a significant role.
Really, it can be genetic.
Yeah, there seems to be a biological predisposition for some people. They might simply be wired to be more cautious, more sensitive to stimuli. Then the childhood environment is hugely influential.
How so? Like parenting.
Exactly. For instance, if parents consistently overemphasize potential dangers in the world or maybe enforced very strict rules about interacting with strangers, a child might grow up approaching unknown people and situations with extreme caution, and that caution can persist right into adulthood.
That makes sense. Learning to be wary.
Mm-hmm. And similarly, children who observe shy or anxious parents often model those behaviors themselves. It becomes their default setting. Beyond parenting styles, things like environmental instability.
Like moving around a lot.
Yeah, frequent relocation or experiences with bullying, maybe living in unsafe neighborhoods or going through major family upheavals like divorce or the death of a parent. All these things can significantly impact a child's social interaction development, making them more withdrawn or hesitant.
Wow. So it paints a much clearer picture. It's not just a choice someone makes. It's often a deeply ingrained response to life experiences, maybe even our genetic makeup.
Precisely. And it doesn't stop in childhood either. Adolescent and adult experiences contribute too. If someone faced painful rejection from their peers, maybe in high school, or severe criticism from teachers or bosses,
Yeah.
it's completely natural to develop a powerful fear of future humiliating experiences. You want to avoid that pain again. Understanding these various sources is so crucial for developing genuinely effective coping mechanisms, rather than just dismissing the feeling or expecting it to vanish on its own.
Right. Understanding the why helps figure out the how to deal with it.
Exactly. And related to this, it's incredibly important to clarify the distinctions between shyness, social anxiety, and introversion. These terms get conflated and misunderstood all the time.
Yes. They definitely get used interchangeably.
Yeah.
Could you break down those differences for us? Because that's a crucial distinction, especially for our English learners who might be hearing these terms and wondering what's what.
Certainly. Okay, so shyness generally describes a discomfort or inhibition, primarily with new people or in new situations initially. But this discomfort tends to ease and dissipate as familiarity grows.
So you warm up over time.
Exactly. It doesn't necessarily cause intense distress, and it doesn't usually lead to active social avoidance. You might feel a bit awkward at the start of a party, but after chatting with a few people, you might feel fine.
Okay. What about social anxiety then?
Social anxiety disorder is different. It's a clinical mental health condition. It's characterized by a persistent, often overwhelming fear of rejection, disapproval, or criticism in social situations. This fear is so intense, it frequently does lead to active social avoidance. It causes significant distress and can really impact daily life functioning.
So that's much more severe and pervasive.
Much more. And lastly, introversion. This is a personality preference. It's about preferring solitude and less social stimulation to recharge your energy. It's not driven by fear or self-consciousness like shyness or social anxieties are.
So introverts can socialize.
Oh, absolutely. Introverts can socialize very effectively when they choose to, and they often enjoy meaningful interactions. But they need alone time afterwards to recharge. Kind of like a battery, they choose solitude to restore energy. A socially anxious person, on the other hand, might avoid interaction out of fear.
That's a really crucial distinction. So it seems important not to pathologize shyness, but maybe understand it better. You mentioned earlier viewing shyness not as a flaw, but potentially as a valuable trait. How does that shift in perception work? How can that benefit someone trying to improve their conversational fluency?
It's all about encouraging a fundamental shift in perception, recognizing that shyness often comes bundled with inherent strengths that can actually be leveraged. Think about it from an evolutionary perspective.
Okay.
While the more outgoing individuals in a group might have ventured out, explored new territories, maybe found new food sources, the shy individuals might have stayed closer to home, been more cautious, perhaps avoiding potential threats. Both roles were absolutely necessary for the survival of the group.
Interesting. So caution has value.
Exactly. So instead of viewing shyness purely as a deficiency, we can highlight the positive traits often possessed by shy individuals. Things like empathy, sensitivity, attentiveness.
Good listeners, maybe.
Often fantastic listeners. These qualities can actually lead to stronger, more trusting relationships over time because they enable a deeper connection once that initial discomfort is overcome. And for an English learner, think about it. Being an attentive listener is a massive advantage. You absorb more vocabulary, you understand nuance better, and you build stronger bonds because people feel you're truly paying attention.
That's a really empowering way to look at it. It's not about fundamentally changing who you are, but understanding and maybe even leveraging your natural strengths,
Yeah.
seeing it as a unique wiring, not a problem.
Precisely. And one common cognitive bias that often makes feelings of shyness worse, makes us feel more exposed and judged than we really are, is something called the spotlight effect.
The spotlight effect. Okay, what's that?
It's this often totally false assumption that other people are intensely observing and judging your every single action and word, as if there's a literal spotlight shining on you in every social situation.
Huh. I think I know that feeling.
We all do sometimes. We tend to believe our mistakes, our momentary awkwardness, our little verbal stumbles, our quirks. We think they're far more noticeable and significant to others than they actually are.
So how do we counter that?
Well, try this. Pause and reflect honestly. How much do you truly notice about other people's fleeting stumbles or their momentary awkwardness? How much headspace do you dedicate to judging them?
Probably not that much, honestly. I'm usually more worried about myself.
Exactly. You'll likely find that people are usually far less observant of us than we imagine. They're often preoccupied with their own self-perception, their own internal spotlight. Realizing this, internalizing it, can significantly diminish the pressure. It frees you up to be more present in the actual conversation rather than stuck in your head worrying. 2. Initiating conversations. Breaking the ice with finesse.
The spotlight effect is so real, and that reframing is genuinely helpful. Just knowing most people probably aren't scrutinizing your every move takes a lot of the pressure off, doesn't it?
It really can.
Okay, so we've dug into understanding conversation, and we're working on embracing ourselves, shyness and all. Now let's tackle the moment of truth, initiating conversations. For many, this is where the real apprehension kicks in. How do we cultivate the right mindset and gather the confidence to actually start that dialogue?
You're touching on a fear many people share. But the first step is to really challenge those underlying assumptions we often carry into these situations. We tend to think almost automatically that a conversation with a stranger will be awkward or burdensome or just plain unfun for them or for us.
Yeah, the fear of awkward silence or saying the wrong thing.
Right. But research, like some cited by Charles Duhigg, actually reveals pretty much the opposite. People generally derive significant enjoyment and a stronger sense of connection from even brief interactions with strangers, often much more than they predict beforehand.
Really, more than they predict.
Yeah, think about that. Those small interactions, chatting with the cashier, a quick comment to someone in line, they actually contribute positively to our overall happiness and sense of connection. So the apprehension we feel is often way out of proportion to the actual likely positive outcome. It's like a mental trick our brains play on us, focusing on the potential negative.
That's such an encouraging thought, knowing that most people actually want to connect, or at least they enjoy it more than they expect. Okay, but how do we project confidence, especially if we don't necessarily feel comfortable yet? There's a big difference between acting the part and actually feeling it, isn't there?
There is indeed a crucial distinction. Appearing confident is different from genuinely feeling comfortable, but you can project confidence even when you're feeling a little shaky inside. A few actionable strategies can help.
Okay, like what?
Strategic eye contact is paramount. Now, this isn't about staring intensely into someone's soul that can be really off-putting.
Yeah, definitely avoid the soul stare.
Right. Instead, aim for good, comfortable eye contact. Etiquette expert Elaine Swan suggests subtly focusing on points like the forehead, eyebrows, the bridge of the nose, or even the chin.
Oh, interesting. Why there?
It gives the impression of direct engagement without the sometimes intimidating intensity of direct eye-to-eye contact. And it can actually ease your own anxiety too, especially maybe if you're an English learner trying to concentrate on understanding what's being said. It takes some pressure off.
That's a brilliant, subtle trick. Manage the intensity and your own nerves. What about preparing beforehand? Does that help?
Pre-conversation preparation can be incredibly helpful. Simply thinking of a few potential conversation topics in advance, just having them in your back pocket can significantly reduce anxiety.
Even if you don't use them?
Even if you don't end up using them, just knowing they're there provides a mental safety net. It reduces that fear of the dreaded awkward silence where your mind goes blank.
Okay, like having a few conversation starters ready.
Exactly. But maybe even more importantly, remember that authenticity trumps performance. The goal here is genuine connection, right? Not demonstrating how clever or witty you are.
Right, not putting on a show.
Precisely. As Rob Kendall, author of Watch Your Language, emphasizes, it's about being yourself. Trying to force some bold, outgoing persona that you don't genuinely feel inside can paradoxically increase your anxiety. It feels like you're faking it, and that's stressful.
So it's okay to not be the most dazzling conversationalist as long as you're real. And what if you are actually nervous? Should you try and hide that? Or can admitting it sometimes be an opener itself?
The power of genuineness really shines through here. It's absolutely fine, sometimes even admirable, to admit you're a little nervous, or to let people know you prefer to kind of ease into a group at your own pace.
People appreciate honesty.
Often, yes. Such honesty can be really appreciated and can actually build authentic confidence because you often get positive reactions. Someone might say, "Oh, me too." For an English learner, you could even say something like, "Please excuse my English. I'm still learning, but I'd love to chat."
Yeah.
That kind of vulnerability can instantly disarm people and create a connection.
That's a great tip.
Conversely, try to avoid those little white lies just to keep a conversation moving, like pretending to love, say, yoga when you've never actually tried it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that could backfire.
Right. It
Yeah.
could totally backfire when your new acquaintance enthusiastically invites you to their 6 a.m. sunrise yoga class next Sunday. It's much better to be truthful and say something like, I've never tried yoga, but I'm curious about it. What do you like about it? That opens up a real conversation rather than fabricating a false connection you then have to maintain.
That's solid advice for both confidence and, well, integrity. Okay, so with the right mindset in place, let's get practical. What are some effective openers and starters? What's in our conversational toolkit, especially if you're trying to practice your English in the real world?
Okay, the toolkit. Starting simple is often the most effective strategy. Never underestimate the power of a straightforward, "Hey, how's it going?" or "Hi there, lovely day, isn't it?"
The basics work.
They really do. They're universal, non-threatening. It's that initial conversational thrust. Beyond that, the art of the compliment is remarkably powerful if it's genuine.
A genuine compliment. Okay.
Yeah, offer specific, genuine compliments, maybe about an item of clothing, a unique personal style, even a professional achievement if appropriate. Something specific shows you've noticed.
And how does that open things up?
Because people often naturally elaborate on whatever was complimented, it gives them something easy to talk about. If you say, "That's a really cool scarf,"
Yeah.
they might respond with a story about where they got it or who gave it to them. Boom, instant opening for you to ask a follow-up question.
Ah, clever. It prompts more dialogue, and it feels natural and positive. What about finding common ground? That seems key.
Absolutely. Situational starters are excellent for this because they inherently tap into a shared experience you're both having right then and there.
Like commenting on the situation.
Exactly. Encourage yourself to comment on shared circumstances or interests. This could range from event-specific questions like, "So, how do you know the host?" or "Have you been to this venue before?"
Easy ones for parties or events.
Yep. Or it could be about shared, mundane experiences. Remarks about a delayed bus. "Can you believe how late this bus is?" A broken vending machine, or waiting in a long queue. "This line's moving slow today, huh?"
Relatable stuff.
Totally relatable. Even environment-based observations work well. Comments about, say, a dorm room. "Wow, you've really made this space your own." A tough class assignment. "How are you finding this project?" Navigating campus. "Do you know where the library is from here?" Or the ever-reliable weather. "Can you believe this humidity?" These all break the ice effectively, especially for English learners in new environments, because you're acknowledging a shared reality.
Asking for assistance sounds like a surprisingly low-stakes way to initiate, too. I wouldn't have thought of that as an opener.
It really is. Suggest asking for simple help, like directions. "Excuse me, could you tell me how to get to?" Or asking something like, "Do you happen to know if this coffee shop has Wi-Fi?" It's a very low-stakes icebreaker.
Because people generally like to help.
Often, yes. And it can easily lead to further dialogue or maybe a shared anecdote. It establishes a natural interaction that doesn't feel forced at all.
Okay. But to really keep it going, you mentioned open-ended questions earlier.
Yes. To truly foster sustained conversation, strategic open-ended questions are paramount. These are the questions that invite detailed responses, going beyond a simple yes or no.
Can you give some examples?
Sure. Instead of "Do you like sports?" which can be a dead end if they say no, ask something like, "What do you enjoy doing for fun outside of work school?" Or, "Any interesting hobbies keeping you busy lately?" Or maybe something a bit more reflective like, "What's something that's currently at the top of your bucket list?"
Those definitely invite more than one word.
Right. In a professional context, instead of the potentially dry "Which hospital do you work at?" you could ask, "What originally made you decide to go into medicine?" Or, "What's the most rewarding part of your work?" These deeper questions invite personal sharing and offer really rich ground for follow-up questions.
Those examples clearly illustrate the difference. It's moving from data collection to actual conversation. What about for professional settings specifically? Any tailored openers? Because those environments can sometimes feel a bit more formal or rigid.
Yeah, they can. In workplace settings, questions like, how's your workload been recently? Or, any interesting projects on your plate? Or, any travels coming up, work or otherwise, are often excellent neutral starting points.
Safe ground.
Safe ground. And inquiring about morning routines can sometimes be a surprisingly engaging way to find common ground. Are you a morning person? Or, what's your go-to coffee order? Everyone has some sort of daily ritual.
True. And online. How do we initiate there?
Online conversation has its own nuances, definitely. When initiating digitally, say on a dating app or a social networking site, it's generally better to comment on something specific in the person's profile.
Rather than just hi.
Exactly. It signals genuine interest in them, rather than sending a generic opening line to dozens of people. It shows you've actually looked at their profile and found something intriguing. If they reciprocate with interest, then you've got a positive start, and the conversation can potentially lead to arranging an offline meeting.
Okay, that's a comprehensive toolkit for verbal openers. But conversations aren't just about the words we use, are they? Body language, that silent language, plays a massive role in approachability. And it can be a huge cultural indicator for English learners, too.
You're absolutely right. Body language speaks volumes, often long before a single word is uttered. Take the eyes, for instance. They have incredible expressive power.
How so?
Well, our eyes convey a multitude of messages, often unconsciously. Maintaining appropriate eye contact, finding that cultural sweet spot signals engagement and interest, but it's vital not to stare intently, which can inadvertently convey aggression or just make someone really uncomfortable.
Yeah, the creepy stare.
Definitely avoid that. Being mindful of your gaze ensures you project genuine curiosity and openness, not disinterest or threat. For English learners, really paying attention to how people use their eyes in conversation in their target culture is a crucial nonverbal skill to pick up on.
So finding that culturally appropriate balance, what about other body movements? What do they tell us, or what should we aim to project?
Think about gestures. Things like a friendly wave, an affirmative nod of agreement, or maintaining an open posture, keeping your arms uncrossed, facing the person, maybe with a slight lean forward. All of these communicate openness and approachability.
Inviting signals.
Exactly. Conversely, think about closed-off signals. Crossed arms, fidgeting constantly, nervous foot tapping. These can signal impatience, defensiveness, or disinterest. They can effectively shut down a potential conversation before it even starts. Your body literally creates a barrier, or it extends an invitation. It's important to be aware of what your body is saying.
And facial expressions are obviously key, too. Beyond just smiling, what should we be aware of or consciously manage?
Well, the profound impact of a genuine smile in conveying warmth and friendliness cannot be overstated. It's like an instant universal welcome sign.
True, the smile goes a long way.
It really does. However, we also need to be cautious about unintentional negative expressions, like frowning when concentrating, or having a resting face that looks serious or even disapproving. People might misinterpret that. The goal is congruent body language, meaning your nonverbals should match your verbal message. If you're saying something friendly and open, your face and body should be saying the same thing. An open, friendly posture and consistent, comfortable eye contact are crucial nonverbal cues. They invite others into conversation and are absolutely essential for making a positive first impression. These are often the very first signals people pick up on, long before you even utter your first word in English. 3. Sustaining and deepening conversations. The art of connection.
Okay, fantastic. We've broken the ice, we've managed our body language, we've initiated a conversation, but now what about keeping it going? And maybe more importantly, deepening that connection. This is where many of us, I think, especially maybe English learners, can feel the pressure to perform or worry about running out of things to say, which brings us, I think, to the immense power of active listening.
Active listening is, without a shadow of a doubt, a fundamental skill. It significantly enhances communication, but more than that, it fosters profound respect. It's about more than just hearing the words someone says. It's truly tuning in with the intent to understand the speaker.
Not just waiting for your turn to speak.
Exactly. Not just formulating your next brilliant response in your head while they're still talking. Active listening demonstrates genuine care, which is really the bedrock of any meaningful interaction. It makes the other person feel valued, feel heard, and that's often half the battle in keeping a conversation alive and interesting.
So it's not passive reception, it's active, conscious engagement. How do we actually do that? What are the key elements of active listening in practice?
Well, there are many detailed components discussed in communication studies, but we can distill them into a few key actionable categories to make it easier to apply. Firstly, there's being fully present.
Fully present.
Okay. This means using your own body language and gestures to explicitly convey attention. Things we've touched on. Direct eye contact, but without staring. Occasional nodding to show you're following along. Responsive facial expressions, like maybe a slight smile if they say something amusing, or a furrowed brow if they're explaining something complex. Maintaining an open and inviting posture. And offering those small verbal affirmations, yes, I see, These all encourage the speaker to continue.
Little encouragers.
Exactly. And crucially, being fully present means truly giving the speaker your undivided attention. Purposefully setting aside those distracting thoughts that pop into your head, minimizing environmental distractions if you can, maybe turning slightly away from a noisy area, and consciously observing their body language for those extra emotional signals. For English learners, this means really concentrating on what they're saying and the feeling behind it, not just wrestling with the grammar or vocabulary in your own head.
Those are all cues we recognize. But it's so helpful to be conscious of using them. It's incredibly easy to get distracted or start planning your response while someone else is still talking. That's a real challenge, even for native speakers.
It absolutely is. It's something we probably all need to consciously work on pretty regularly. The second key area is seeking deep understanding.
Okay, what does that involve?
This involves acknowledging that our own personal biases, our assumptions, our judgments, they can really distort what we actually hear. Our role as the listener isn't just to receive, it's to ensure accurate understanding.
So checking in.
Yes, actively checking in. This means employing techniques like paraphrasing what has been said, using phrases like, so what I'm hearing is, or, okay, so it sounds like you're saying.
Reflecting it back.
Exactly. It also means asking clarifying questions to resolve any ambiguities. What did you mean when you said? Or could you tell me a bit more about, or just to make sure I've got this right, is this what you mean?
Good clarifying phrases.
Periodically summarizing the speaker's main points also helps confirm understanding, especially in longer conversations. And of course, continuing to use those open-ended questions invites further elaboration.
And what if things get emotional? Or you misunderstand something and react?
That's a really important point. A crucial tip here is, if you find yourself responding emotionally to something someone said, try to express this openly and seek more information, rather than just reacting defensively. You could say something like, I might not be understanding you correctly, and I find myself having a bit of a reaction to that. What I thought you just said was XXX. Is that actually what you meant?
Wow, that's direct, but also quite vulnerable.
It is, but it's incredibly effective. It addresses potential misinterpretations directly and can really de-escalate things if emotions are starting to run high. It shows you're trying to understand, not just argue.
That's a powerful technique. So being present and seeking deep understanding are foundational. What else?
The final broader category we can think about is supportive engagement. This really emphasizes the importance of allowing the speaker to fully articulate their thoughts without interruption, even if you have brilliant counter-arguments forming in your head.
Resisting the urge to jump in.
Exactly. Interrupting, especially to disagree immediately, is often just a waste of time. It frustrates the speaker, and it limits your own full understanding of their perspective before you challenge it. This element stresses refraining from immediate judgment and expressing genuine empathy for their emotions, whether they're sharing sorrow or joy. You're trying to create a safe space for them to complete their thought or story.
Okay.
And in a more advanced stage, supportive engagement might involve first asking the speaker for their own ideas on solving a problem, if that's what the conversation is about. This empowers them. And then, after they've shared, offering your honest, respectful opinions and asserting them constructively.
So it's a structured way to offer help or perspective.
Yes. And this whole process of active listening becomes even more critical when we remember that oft-cited communication fact. Something like only 10% of communication is the actual words used. The other 90% is intent, tone, body language.
Wow, 90% is of words.
The exact percentage is debated, but the principle holds. Content is only a small fraction of communication. The underlying intentions, the emotions, often conveyed non-verbally, dominate how the message is actually understood.
That really underscores why pure vocabulary isn't enough, doesn't it? and why listening deeply, picking up on those nonverbal cues, is so crucial for English learners to grasp the full meaning, the subtext, and to feel truly connected in a conversation.
Exactly right. And if you've ever played those party games like the listening test or telephone or gossip, where a story gets passed along and changes dramatically with each retelling,
Oh yeah, they always end up completely different.
right, those games powerfully demonstrate how easily listening can be compromised and how messages get distorted in transmission. They reinforce the critical need for conscious, active listening in our real-world interactions. A core principle to remember is simply this: a good listener is genuinely interested.
Simple, but powerful.
It is. For English learners, focusing on actively listening rather than just mentally rehearsing your next response is vital. And a great strategy is to encourage your conversation partners to talk about themselves. It's a universally comfortable topic for most people. Asking those open-ended questions about their experiences, their thoughts, their feelings. Ultimately, active listening is just paramount for building strong, enduring connections in any relationship, personal or professional.
So once we're actively listening, the conversation hopefully becomes a more dynamic back and forth. This brings us to mastering turn-taking. That feels like the very rhythm of dialogue, and as you mentioned earlier, it's something that can vary so much across cultures.
It truly is the rhythm. Turn-taking is the fundamental organization of conversation. Participants alternate speaking, and ideally, we strive to minimize both awkward, overlapping talk and those long, uncomfortable silences between turns. It's a universal structure, but its conventions definitely vary culturally.
You mentioned New Yorkers versus Californians earlier.
Yeah, that's one example often cited. You might observe that people in some cultures, like New Yorkers perhaps, tend to overlap in conversation more readily. Sometimes talking over each other slightly isn't seen as rude, but as a sign of engagement or enthusiasm. Whereas in other cultures, like maybe parts of California, people often leave more distinct pauses between turns, giving each speaker ample, uninterrupted space. These subtle timing differences are fascinating, and understanding them can prevent misinterpretations for English learners navigating new cultural contexts. You might think someone is interrupting you rudely when really they're just showing engagement in their cultural style.
That's a great point about cultural nuance. And what about when overlaps do occur? Are they always problematic or considered rude? Because sometimes it feels natural.
Not at all. This is a common misconception. We need to distinguish between different types of overlap. There are what we can call non-competitive overlaps, which are generally harmless, even necessary.
Like what?
Well, a terminal overlap happens when one speaker assumes the other is just about finished and begins to speak almost simultaneously, but without any intention of cutting them off. Then you have continuers, those little right affirmations we make while someone else is talking to show we're listening.
Back channeling.
Right, exactly. Then there's conditional access, where the current speaker might pause or use a rising intonation, implicitly inviting someone else to jump in with a quick comment or question. And of course, chordal overlaps, those spontaneous shared moments, like when you both burst out laughing at the same time, a shared chord of emotion.
Okay, those all sound fine. What about overlaps that feel more like interruptions?
This is where it gets interesting. There's also cooperative overlap. Think about this. Have you ever been explaining something and a friend jumps in with, "Oh, you mean like that time when," or "So are you saying that?"
Yeah, happens all the time.
That's often a cooperative overlap. It might feel like an interruption, but it's frequently not meant rudely. It's often a sign they're with you, they're engaged, maybe helping to clarify the point or showing really keen interest. In fact, some research, particularly looking at English used as a lingua franca, that's when people from different language backgrounds communicate using English, found that these kinds of overlapping questions can actually deepen understanding and actively demonstrate engagement.
So an interruption isn't always rude.
Sure.
It can actually be a sign of active listening and participation in certain contexts. That's a powerful insight, especially for English learners who might be super worried about interrupting. But there are still bad interruptions, right? Competitive ones.
Yes, absolutely. Competitive overlap is quite different. This is when someone deliberately attempts to seize control of the conversational floor, maybe by talking over someone aggressively, loudly, or by abruptly changing the subject to something they want to talk about. This can signify power dynamics, maybe even hostility, and that's where an overlap truly becomes a problematic interruption.
Okay, so context and intent matter hugely.
Hugely. And eye contact also plays a critical role in signaling turn-taking. Speakers often shift their gaze away from the listener while they're formulating their thoughts and speaking, and then as they're finishing their turn, they tend to shift their gaze back to the person they expect to speak next. It acts like a nonverbal handoff, a subtle invitation. Okay, your turn.
That's a very elegant, almost unspoken system. Fascinating. In terms of how much people talk, should participants aim for, like, exactly equal airtime, or is that too rigid?
It's definitely not a stopwatch exercise. But the principle is that a conversation is inherently a shared endeavor. Ideally, participants should have reasonably equal opportunities over the course of the chat to speak, ask questions, and listen.
So avoid monologuing.
Absolutely. Dominating the conversation, even if it's fueled by enthusiasm and you have fascinating things to say, can be really off-putting. It can make others feel unheard, steamrolled, or even just lectured to. Finding that balance is key.
Okay. And what if the conversation just starts feeling stale, like you're going in circles?
That's a great cue. If you notice repetitive dialogue, the same points being made over and over, or the conversation just keeps circling back to old ground without moving forward, it's a clear signal that it's probably time to shift to a new topic. This maintains conversational freshness, prevents boredom, and keeps the energy up.
Good point. How do we show, though, that we've been listening attentively to things said earlier in the conversation, to make the other person feel we've really retained what they shared?
This is where the real charm of using callbacks comes in.
Callbacks. What are those?
Callbacks are brief, often clever references back to details that were shared earlier in the same conversation. It's a subtle but incredibly powerful technique.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Let's say someone mentioned earlier, maybe 10 minutes ago, that they're training for a marathon. Later on, the conversation shifts to weekend plans. You might say, so besides your long marathon training run, what else are you hoping to do this weekend?
So you're linking back.
Exactly. It shows you weren't just listening passively, you were retaining the information. It demonstrates attentiveness and astute memory, and it often elicits really positive reactions. It makes the speaker appear more charismatic and genuinely engaged. It basically says, I was listening and I remembered you and what you care about.
I love that conversational superheroes you called follow-up questions earlier. Callbacks feel like another superpower. They highlight how simple yet potent these tools can be, making you instantly seem more connected and memorable. Okay, let's talk more about specific strategies for continued engagement. Beyond active listening and graceful turn-taking, what else helps keep a dialogue truly alive and vibrant?
Building directly on active listening, those conversational superheroes' follow-up questions remain incredibly potent. They require zero prior preparation, they're always available in your toolkit, and they are fantastic for propelling the conversation forward. They genuinely show interest and encourage deeper sharing.
Right, instead of just, oh, nice.
Exactly. When someone mentions a recent trip to Italy, don't just nod. Ask, oh, wow, what was the absolute best part of your trip? Or was there anything about the culture that really surprised you? These invite rich detail and, crucially, make the other person feel truly listened to and interesting.
Definitely. But how do we ensure the conversation doesn't become a one-sided interrogation where you're just firing off questions?
That's a great point. That's where the conversational catch and throw comes in. It's the dynamic of turning your own answers into questions, ensuring a continuous back and forth flow. It prevents the conversation from stalling with you.
How does that work?
If someone asks you about your weekend, don't just give a one-sentence answer. Share a brief, maybe interesting detail, and then immediately toss the conversational ball back with something like, it was pretty relaxing, actually. We tried that new cafe downtown. How about yours? Did you get up to anything fun? This keeps the energy flowing back and forth.
Sharing a bit, then asking back. Got it.
Sharing relevant, interesting anecdotes and personal stories is also highly effective when done right. This not only entertains, but, more importantly, it invites the other person to reciprocate with similar narratives. It naturally builds common ground and connection. Just make sure your anecdote is genuinely relevant to the topic, reasonably concise, it's a shared experience, not a monologue, and ideally leads back to them somehow.
So it's about making it personal without making it all about you, offering something of yourself to invite them to do the same. What about the overall tone and demeanor? How do we keep things positive and inviting?
Authenticity and positivity are crucial here. Just try to be yourself. Allow your genuine enthusiasm for the topic or the person to shine through naturally. Maintain a generally positive and open-minded attitude. And consciously try to steer clear of negative comments, excessive complaining, gossip, or inappropriate humor.
Why is that so important?
Because negativity can quickly derail the mood, make people uncomfortable, and shut down open communication. People generally prefer positive interactions. Strategic use of humor, though, can be a great asset.
When used well.
Exactly. Integrating lighthearted jokes or funny observations, maybe like, wow, this coffee is strong, I think I might vibrate out of my chair soon. That can create a comfortable atmosphere and build rapport. Just always be mindful of its appropriateness for the specific context and the audience you're with. A good rule of thumb: if you're unsure if a joke will land well, it's probably better to err on the side of caution.
That's a good reminder that humor needs to be adaptable, not universal. And what about subtly adapting our own style to the person we're speaking with? Is that a good idea?
Subtly adapting your style, sometimes called mirroring or pacing, can be very effective. Gently mirroring the other person's body language, maybe their posture or hand gestures, and their conversational cadence, like their speaking speed or tone, can create a more harmonious and comfortable interaction. It's a nonverbal way of signaling, hey, I'm on your wavelength, and it can make them feel more at ease subconsciously.
Interesting. Not mimicking, but subtly aligning.
Precisely. And for English learners specifically, preparation for broader engagement is immensely valuable. Doing a little research, maybe familiarizing yourself with vocabulary related to potential topics, especially if you know you're going to be interacting with people who share a common interest, like specific sports teams, hobbies, current movie releases, whatever it is, can be very helpful.
So you have something to contribute.
Right. And just generally staying somewhat abreast of current news and world events provides a rich, almost inexhaustible source of potential discussion material. You'll feel more confident joining in if you have some background knowledge.
That's excellent advice for leveraging the learning process itself, turning every interaction into an opportunity to practice and use potentially more advanced vocabulary and grammar in a natural, meaningful context. And in our increasingly digital world, how do these strategies translate to online conversations, where body language is largely absent?
Online communication definitely has its own set of nuances, but the core principles of engagement still absolutely apply. It's vital to be fully present and engaged, just as you would be in person. Don't try to multitask too much while you're messaging someone.
Pay attention to the chat.
Right. The advantage online is you often can scroll back through the conversation history if you need to quickly remember a specific detail they mentioned earlier, which is handy. Advising the judicious use of emoticons and emojis can also help. They can convey emotion or tone that might otherwise be lost in plain text.
But don't overdo it.
Exactly. Caution against overuse, especially in more formal or professional contexts, to maintain a genuine or appropriate tone. They should really complement your words, not replace them entirely. And just like in person, active listening, or in this case, active reading and thoughtful responding, is absolutely key to showing you're truly engaged with what they're saying. 4. Navigating challenges and ending gracefully.
Okay, this is all incredibly helpful for initiating and sustaining engaging conversations. But let's be real, not every single conversation flows perfectly. We all hit those conversational roadblocks, or kerfuffles, as you nicely called them earlier. How do we overcome those awkward moments when the dialogue just kind of stalls or feels really forced?
Yeah, the dreaded stall. It's crucial to first just normalize the awkwardness, accept that it happens. Even the most skilled communicators, myself included, encounter these conversational kerfuffles, those moments where the dialogue just stalls out, feels forced, or gets plain awkward. Alison Woodbrooks reminds us that these are normal, inescapable parts of human interaction. The trick isn't to somehow magically avoid them forever, but to recognize them when they happen and have a few strategies ready in your back pocket.
So what are the signs? How do we recognize that we've hit a roadblock?
There are usually clear indicators that a topic has run its course or the energy is dipping. Things like noticeably longer mutual pauses between turns, finding yourself repeating statements you've already made, or even that kind of uncomfortable, forced laughter that fills a void. These are pretty undeniable signals that it's probably time to shift gears.
Okay, so awkwardness is inevitable. We spot the signs, but we don't have to just sit there and endure it. What are some practical strategies for revitalizing a stalled conversation? How do we inject some fresh energy?
One straightforward approach is simply a direct topic transition. Explicitly changing the subject to something new and unrelated can work wonders. You might say something like, oh, speaking of that, it reminds me of something completely different I wanted to ask you, or that's really interesting. Changing gears slightly, I was also wondering about.
Just acknowledging the shift.
Yeah, sometimes acknowledging it helps. Another powerful strategy is posing a new, thought-provoking, open-ended question. Something unrelated to the previous topic, like, what's something you've always wanted to try but haven't had the chance to yet? Or, if you could instantly learn any skill overnight, what would it be? These can spark fresh thought.
Get their brain working differently.
Exactly. Humor can also serve as an excellent icebreaker in these moments. A well-timed, lighthearted joke or a funny observation about the situation can reset the mood and maybe create a shared moment of relief from the awkwardness.
Okay, what if it feels really stuck?
If things feel particularly forced or you just need a reset, suggesting a brief recess can work wonders. Saying something like, "Hey, I'm going to grab another drink. Can I get you one?" Or, I just need to step away for a moment, but I'll be right back. This naturally resets the conversation without making it feel abrupt.
A physical break can help reset the mental space.
It really can. And perhaps most importantly, maybe controversially, learn to embrace pauses sometimes. Get comfortable with moments of silence. Instead of feeling panicked pressure to fill every single gap, try using those brief silences as opportunities to reflect, gather your thoughts, and plan your next thoughtful contribution. Silence isn't always awkward. Sometimes it's just contemplative, allowing both people a moment to breathe and think.
That's a great mindset shift, seeing silence as an opportunity rather than a conversational void.
Yeah.
Now, shifting gears slightly ourselves while we want to be open and engaging, there are certainly topics that are best approached with caution, right? Especially for English learners who might be navigating different cultural norms and sensitivities about what's okay to discuss.
Absolutely. This is really important for smooth interactions. A key guideline is generally maintaining neutrality, especially when you're first getting to know someone or definitely in professional settings. Advise against launching into discussions about strong political beliefs, deeply held religious views, or overly personal topics like, say, relationship problems or details about sex.
Why are those risky?
Such subjects can be really off-putting, potentially divisive, and make people uncomfortable very quickly, especially if you don't know them well. For example, in many Anglo cultures, strongly stated opinions on politics or religion are often considered quite private matters in casual conversation. Bringing them up forcefully can feel intrusive or lead to unnecessary conflict.
Yeah, best to tread carefully there. And finances often come up as a taboo subject in many cultures too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Strongly recommend avoiding discussions about finances or salaries. Asking someone how much they earn or how much their house cost, that's often considered highly impolite and very sensitive, particularly in Anglo cultures. It's generally seen as a very private domain.
Good to know. What else falls into that sensitive category?
Similarly, caution against delving into deeply sensitive personal details like death, serious illness, divorce details, or other profound personal issues unless the other person brings it up first and seems comfortable discussing it. You're trying to build rapport, usually, not conduct an impromptu therapy session, and you have no idea what personal struggles they might be navigating privately.
Right, respecting boundaries. What about seemingly simpler questions, like asking about marital status or age? Are those generally safe, or can they be tricky too?
Those can be surprisingly sensitive, and cultural differences are really stark here. It's important to highlight specific cultural sensitivities around asking directly about marital status. Are you married or age? How old are you? Especially, though not exclusively, regarding women in many Anglo cultures.
Why is that?
Such direct questions, particularly if asked early on or out of context, can easily be misinterpreted. For example, if a man asks a woman, "Are you married?" right off the bat, it might come across as him coming onto her or assessing her availability rather than just making friendly conversation. It can feel loaded.
Ah, okay, so context is key. How can you ask if you genuinely need to know, or if you stumble into sensitive territory accidentally?
This is where those softening phrases we talked about earlier become invaluable for navigating tricky waters with grace. Reiterate the use of phrases like, "if you don't mind me asking," or "if you don't mind me saying so," or "excuse me if I'm being a bit nosy," but before asking a potentially sensitive question.
So you signal awareness.
Exactly.
Hmm.
These phrases signal your awareness that you might be crossing a conversational boundary and show respect for their personal space. It makes an otherwise potentially intrusive question feel much more palatable. It's like saying, "I understand this might be personal. Feel free not to answer, but I'm curious."
Those softening phrases are definitely invaluable tools, especially for English learners looking to sound natural and polite while navigating cultural nuances. Okay, finally, every conversation, no matter how engaging it's been, eventually needs to conclude. Knowing when and how to make a graceful exit is a real skill in itself, isn't it? It can leave a really positive final impression.
It absolutely is a skill, and it leaves a lasting impression, positive or negative. Firstly, pay close attention again to the other person's nonverbal cues. They often signal readiness to end the chat before they say anything.
What kind of cues?
Subtle signs like them starting to avert eye contact more frequently than before, subtly turning their body away from you, maybe taking a slight step back physically, checking their watch or phone more often. These are clear indicators they might be looking for an exit, as etiquette expert Elaine Swan points out.
Reading the body language again.
Yes. Also, notice the conversational balance. Are you suddenly doing all the work to sustain the conversation? If your partner's responses are becoming minimal, just one-word answers or brief nods, short yes or no replies, that's often a clear signal they might be seeking an exit, as communication expert Rob Kendall suggests. They're disengaging.
So it's about reading the room, or in this case, reading the person.
Yeah.
What are the natural stopping points to look for? Those moments when a conversation feels like it's run its natural course.
Guide yourself to recognize when a conversation has organically reached a good conclusion point. This might be after a shared laugh dies down, during a natural lull in the discussion, or once a specific topic seems to have been fully explored. These are ideal, non-abrupt moments for a smooth transition out.
Okay, so you spot the cues or the natural pause. What do you actually say to make a polite and direct exit?
Having specific, effective phrases ready is incredibly helpful. For instance, a great all-purpose one is, well, I would love to keep talking, but I actually have to mention a reason. Meet someone, get back to work, head home. It was really great meeting you, catching up with you. This expresses appreciation while setting a clear boundary.
Positive but firm.
Exactly. Or if they shared something specific you enjoyed hearing about, you could say, it was really interesting hearing all about your trip to Italy. I really hope you get to travel again soon. I should probably get going now, though. This summarizes a key point, showing you were genuinely listening and valued their contribution, which feels good.
Nice touch, referencing something specific.
For later, more casual chats, a simple, well, I really enjoyed chatting with you. It was nice to take a break and have a good talk. I ought to make a move now, works wonders. It's warm and appreciative.
And what if you do want to potentially continue the conversation in the future? If you genuinely enjoyed the connection and want to stay in touch,
If it feels appropriate and you genuinely desire it, you can definitely suggest staying in touch or exchanging contact information. Say something like, I'd love to continue this conversation sometime. Are you on LinkedIn? Would you mind if I grabbed your email? But always, always gauge the other person's receptiveness. Don't pressure someone who seems hesitant or unsure. It's much better to end gracefully than to force a connection that isn't mutual.
good point. Read the cues on that too. What about online exits? Is it different?
Online exits are often less formal. A simple, hey, gotta run now, but we should definitely talk again sometime, might suffice. If the interaction was really positive, maybe follow up with another message a day or two later to keep the connection going.
And if you find yourself in an awkward or unwanted conversation, you need to escape.
For those times, a simple, polite, and brief out is best. Well, it was nice talking with you. Have a great rest of your day. It maintains positivity without prolonging the discomfort or making excuses. It's clean and clear.
Okay, and one last crucial point here. What if someone just seems disengaged from the start, giving really short answers, not making eye contact?
If someone is consistently giving short, disengaged answers right from the beginning, try to recognize that they may simply not wish to talk at that moment for whatever reason. Respectfully give them space. Don't take it personally. It's not necessarily a reflection of your conversational ability. Sometimes people are just not in the mood, preoccupied, or have other things on their mind. Trying to force a conversation there usually doesn't work well for anyone. Practice makes proficient. Becoming a conversationalist.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive into the art and maybe the science of engaging conversation. From understanding its foundations and navigating shyness to initiating, sustaining, and ending gracefully, we've covered a huge amount of ground. But as with any skill, especially maybe for English learners aiming for fluency, it really all comes down to practice, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. You've hit on the core truth. Conversational skills are very much like a muscle. They're developed and strengthened through consistent, deliberate practice. As etiquette expert Elaine Swan puts it, quite simply, the more you practice, the better you will become at it. There's no magic bullet, just effort over time.
So you don't need grand opportunities or formal classes necessarily. You can practice anywhere. That's good news for people who might be hesitant to jump into big, high-pressure social gatherings right away.
Not at all. You absolutely do not need formal events. Encourage yourself to leverage everyday, mundane situations for practice.
Like where?
Strike up brief, casual interactions with cashiers. How's your day going? Your neighbors. Morning. Looks like rain later, eh? Or people waiting in line with you at the grocery store, the bank, the coffee shop. Long line today. Make it a small, achievable goal. Can you have a two-sentence interaction with the barista beyond just ordering your coffee?
Little challenges.
Exactly. Resist that powerful urge we all feel sometimes to just retreat into your phone in those moments. These low-stakes environments are actually perfect for honing your skills, practicing those simple openers, and maybe a quick follow-up question.
Okay. What about for people in new environments, like starting college or a new job?
Those are prime opportunities. Actively engage with people in those new settings, orientations, common rooms, dorms, the cafeteria, team lunches. Remember, many others in those situations will also be seeking connections. That shared experience of being new creates a natural opening. Everyone is often in the same boat, feeling a bit out of place, and looking to make friends or colleagues.
That's a great reminder you're likely not the only one feeling that way. What about finding people with shared interests? That feels like a natural springboard for easier conversation.
Joining shared interest groups is a fantastic strategy, highly recommended. Think about clubs, book clubs, hiking clubs, sports teams, hobby groups, photography, gaming, crafting, or even volunteer activities.
Why are those so good for practice?
Because common interests provide a natural, built-in, and low-pressure starting point for discussions. You already have something concrete to talk about. It makes finding common ground and initiating dialogue infinitely easier than starting from absolute scratch with a stranger. The shared activity itself is the icebreaker.
Makes total sense. What about more structured practice?
For more focused improvement, you could consider role-playing specific scenarios with a trusted friend. Simulate various social situations, maybe practice initiating a conversation at a party, or navigating an awkward silence, or politely disagreeing about something. This allows you to experiment, get feedback, and build confidence in a safe, judgment-free space before you try it out for real.
That sounds like a really good way to build confidence for specific situations you find tricky. I also imagine there's a lot to learn just from observing how others, especially skilled communicators, handle conversations.
Absolutely. Observational learning is powerful. Encourage yourself to listen actively to podcasts, watch interviews, maybe even pay attention to interactions in movies or TV shows, though those are scripted, obviously. Pay close attention to how skilled communicators, like good interview hosts, interact with guests. How do they ask follow-up questions? How do they transition smoothly between topics? How do conversations unfold naturally? This can give you invaluable insights into different communication styles and effective strategies. And for English learners, it's a great way to absorb natural phrasing and advanced vocabulary in context.
Passive learning that feeds into active practice. What about analyzing your own conversations?
For self-assessment, you could even propose recording some of your personal conversations with the other person's explicit consent, of course. Then listen back to identify areas for improvement. Maybe you notice you use a lot of filler words, or you tend to have long, awkward pauses, or perhaps you missed clear opportunities to ask a follow-up question. This kind of analytical approach, listening back to yourself, can be incredibly illuminating and can dramatically accelerate your learning and help fine-tune your English conversational rhythm.
That takes some bravery, listening to yourself. But I could see how helpful it would be. And for those moments when it inevitably does feel awkward or you stumble over your words, which is so common for everyone, but maybe especially for English learners, what's the key advice?
Just embrace the awkwardness. Really internalize the idea that awkward moments are an inherent, unavoidable part of the learning process. They're not failures, and they shouldn't be a deterrent. They're simply data points. They show you where you might need to adjust your approach next time. They are part of growth.
See them as learning opportunities.
Exactly. And critically, always try to cultivate an open demeanor. Remember the importance of just appearing friendly, open-minded, and approachable. Make eye contact when appropriate, offer a genuine smile when you greet someone, and try to avoid constantly being glued to your phone, especially in social settings.
Right. The phone sends that do not disturb signal.
It really does. It puts up an invisible wall. That simple act of putting the phone away can make such a profound difference in signaling your readiness and willingness to interact.
Okay. Any final thoughts on mindset?
One powerful mindset shift is to adopt the friendship-first philosophy. Try treating new acquaintances, even strangers you strike up a conversation with, as if they are potentially already friends. Assume rapport. This fosters an immediate sense of warmth and ease, both in you and often in them too. It can dramatically shift the dynamic of those initial interactions, making them feel more natural and less daunting.
Assume connection from the start. I like that.
And ultimately, always remember that the paramount goal of any good conversation isn't just to transmit information or impress someone. It's really to make the other person feel genuinely heard, understood, and valued. When you focus on that, the conversation naturally becomes more meaningful and positive for everyone involved. And as a wonderful side effect, it becomes a fantastic way to practice, internalize, and truly master your English language skills in the most authentic way possible.
Wow. As we conclude this deep dive into the art of engaging conversation,
Yeah.
it's just abundantly clear that mastering this skill is such a dynamic journey, isn't it? Not some fixed destination you arrive at.
Definitely a journey.
It's a skill that pays immense dividends in absolutely every facet of life, from forging deeper personal bonds and easing those social anxieties we talked about, to excelling in professional endeavors, and as we've really emphasized today, in accelerating your English fluency through these rich, authentic interactions where you're not just speaking words, but truly connecting with another human being. Remember, every single interaction, no matter how brief it seems, is a golden opportunity, an opportunity to connect, to learn something new, and to grow.
Indeed. And we really encourage you, especially if English isn't your first language, to view each dialogue not primarily as a test of your proficiency, but as a chance to practice, experiment, and refine. It's through these real-world applications, these little conversational workouts, that maybe more advanced vocabulary starts to feel like second nature, and those complex grammatical structures begin to flow with more natural ease. It's
hmm
not just about learning lists of words, it's about learning to weave them into the vibrant, living tapestry of human connection.
Beautifully put. So, to leave you, our listeners, with a final provocative thought to mull over, consider this. What's one small conversational risk you're willing to take this week? Something to maybe deepen a connection or just learn something new and unexpected about someone you encounter.
A little challenge.
Yeah, perhaps it's initiating that chat with a stranger in the coffee line. Maybe it's asking a truly thoughtful follow-up question in your next conversation, one that pushes just slightly past the surface level. Or maybe it's simply practicing that active listening with a renewed, conscious focus in your next interaction, making a real effort to make the other person feel genuinely, completely heard. What will your small risk be?
We truly encourage you to reflect on these strategies, maybe pick one or two to focus on, and perhaps even share your own experiences or successes with us or with friends. We sincerely hope this deep dive has empowered you with the tools, the perspectives, and the confidence to transform your everyday interactions into genuinely engaging dialogues, enhancing not just your social life and connections, but your English fluency along the way.
Thank you so much for joining us on Daily English Dialogues channel. We look forward to our next deep dive with you.